I'm worried about that because it's very hard. Every single day, I lose. And unless you're good at that, you will not like entrepreneurship. You got your perspective. I just want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? Brazil, how are you? Good. So I'm going to do about 40 minutes up here. Then I'm going to I asked them if we could do some Q&A. So we'll do some questions. And then we're going to do a fireside chat. So first of all, I'm just very flattered to be here. Thank you for having me. For the people in this room that don't know who I am, I was born in the Soviet Union, came to America when I was a 3-year-old child. Very tough upbringing. We were very poor when we first came to America. I lived in a 1-studio apartment with 7 of my family members. My dad worked all the time. And so it was a very rough upbringing, not a lot of entitlement, didn't have a lot of stuff. My natural state was to be an entrepreneur. Even at 6, 7 years old, I was already shoveling snow, washing people's cars, selling juice and lemonade and candy. It was always to do a hustle. Somewhere along that time in New Jersey, sports cards became a very big thing in America. Baseball cards, American football cards, and I started collecting them. And by the time I was 13, 14 years old, I was making $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a weekend as a 13-year-old child, which you can imagine feels like you're a millionaire. Eventually, my dad worked very hard and saved all his money, and he bought a small liquor store in New Jersey. I was forced to work in that store, and that is really where I started my real career. I fell in love with the idea of knowing that a lot of people in America collected wine, and that was what kind of connected me to my family business. The part of the story that gets interesting for this room is what happens next. Knowing that there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here, knowing there's a lot of small businesses, a lot of small business agencies, what really enables me the great flattering nature to be in this room is the fact that my entire career was based on how do I build something with not a lot of money. We live in a world right now where a lot of people, and by show of hands, how many people in this room are entrepreneurs and have their own business? Raise your hands. Raise it high. Thank you. So if we can keep the lights on, that'd be amazing. I love that. So for me, what's interesting about all those hands that are up is I'm older. I'm 43, about to be 44 next week. And when I grew up, the idea of raising capital was extremely foreign. One of the most interesting things being an American businessman when I travel nationally, internationally, and other places of the world, is everybody is so caught up with raising money for their startup. This has become an entire generation of hands in the air that think about raising capital and appeasing venture capitalists and investors, not actually building a business and not having the focus there. And to me, this is very interesting because it's led to a lot of very different behavior. For me, everything was always about how do you make money, and that's what you invest back into your business, not how do you raise capital. When I started my current company, VaynerMedia, which is an advertising agency, I started it in the conference room of another company because I had no money and I wasn't going to raise money for the business. I was just going to find my first client, use those dollars, and just keep reinvesting. It took longer, but longer was its strength. I think one of the most important words for me to communicate in this talk today by far is patience. I promise you, no matter what you're doing in this room, and especially as I look around this room, first of all, everyone's uncomfortably attractive, and number two, but more importantly, this is quite a young audience. And I think the reality is, the thing that I spend most of my time on is trying to get people to understand that patience is a very important variable of success, and more importantly, that I believe the far majority of people in this room do not have a great relationship with time. I am fascinated by people in this room who are stressed at the ages of 18 and 22 and 25 and 29, like they're running out of time. How many people, by show of hands, are under 30 years old? So for me, as you can imagine, when I see all those hands go up, you can put your hand down. Yeah, you're good. Okay, good. When I see all those hands go up, and I know in my mind, with the way that modern medicine and technology is going, that the far majority of this room is going to live for another 80 years, it really gets me excited / concerned when people want their business to be huge next year. The quicker you want it, the more vulnerable you are. The quicker you want it, the more vulnerable you are. And what has been very fascinating for me is, even though on YouTube and Instagram and maybe some of the places you guys see me, maybe my energy is high, maybe my style of communication is fast, but my business actions are extremely slow. And so what business actions that lead to slowness lead to is a couple things. One, the far majority of my career, I had no money, so I had to always look for places where you could get a lot more for less. What I look for in the digital world, this world, is organic reach. When I think about organic reach, and when I think about organic attention, as my slide says up here, I day trade attention. For me, every day I look at the data, both in the analytics